Welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, our television stations, on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. We're on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM in the greater West Bloomfield area, and on 88.1 WBFH The Biff in the Birmingham Bloomfield area as well. Online in HD, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link or view us in the small player at the top of our homepage, as well as on Facebook today, as always, facebook.com/civiccentertv15 and facebook.com/Lakes FM. And as always, joining me here in the studio is Ronnie Dahl.
It's close that we were able to get on air. You're a little frantic.
That's what we call a buzzer beater in certain aspects. Yeah, we got on air with negative 5 seconds to spare, but it's okay. We did it. We're alive.
What has the last 24 hours been like for you?
God awful, to be entirely honest. Most of the last 24 hours, not too bad. After about 3 o'clock p.m. yesterday, not the greatest. So of course we had the big storms that came through, and at about 5 o'clock I went to go move my vehicle over to the Chico parking lot over here, what's left of it, because we were going to be doing a municipal meeting that night, and I was like, okay, this rain's supposed to go through the entire night pretty much. So instead of getting soaked for 10 minutes walking back to town hall after the meetings tonight, I'll get soaked for 2-3 minutes walking over to Chico and have to hop a couple of puddles to get into my car.
Right.
So I pull over there, and shortly after I pull in, I get a message from Larry that says, from Larry over here saying, hey, our power is out. And I'm like, okay, well, the generator will kick on, you'll be fine. He's like, no, the generator did kick on, now our power is out. Nothing's on. And I come back in. I'm like, all right, well, I'll be there right away. I get out. I wait for the rain to just subside a little bit so it's not an automatic just bucket over my head. Run over to the building, get to the front door, look inside, and everything is down. And we're trying to see what we can do to keep things up and running. And unfortunately, we had a complete outage because, of course, our generator wasn't kicking us back on. Power was completely out here in this general vicinity and through a lot of the greater West Bloomfield area. And so, we're waiting all through the night for the indication that power was back on, and then this morning our IT director Eugene and I came on in and fired everything back up. We're trying to get all the systems working, got our internet and our phone system, of course, working about 9:30, which is great. That's two of our more critical systems to do the show, and then trying to get the last little things in place before 10 o'clock came around, and we got it about 5 seconds after the hour. But we're here, so who really noticed?
Well, and I guess all those people last night that were, well, let's be honest, we're public access. Right. We're not Fox 2. So.
Exactly.
But I will say it was crazy. So I had a meeting yesterday, and I was in the Birmingham area, was driving back around 3:15, 3:20, and just telegraph. So I was like, oh, I'll cut between, I took like Lasser down to Maple and then, was cutting across to telegraph. But I was like, oh my God, it was such a mess. All the power was out, that whole area. But, and I know that they're talking, Farmington, West Bloomfield, but Birmingham was hit really hard. And I was just passing tree after tree after tree after tree. And that was when I got on Maple, and you could look down the side streets, and it was on cars, it was on houses, and, crews were out trying to remove them from the roadway. And you're like, oh. And so, of course, we're like, is it out at the house? Because typically when it goes out, we are some of the first ones in Kegel because we're also on the trail, so we have those huge trees, which the power lines run right behind our house. They're literally in our backyard, kind of our backyard, that we hijacked from the West Bloomfield Trail Network, but don't tell them. So DTE does come through, like they were just in like 2 weeks ago, trimming all the trees. And I know some of the neighbors get upset, but this is why. Because of days like what we had yesterday. And the guy was, explaining, he's like, yeah, if that tree goes down, you're going to take out power to your entire neighborhood. So Doesn't always look pretty, but we do have to say a big shout out to all the DTE and the line workers that are out working overnight. We know, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, a DTE line worker was killed on the job.
Yeah.
So for everyone that it's never pleasant to live without electricity. We know that. But have a little patience. I think there's, well over 100,000 customers still without power right now. Challenging times, not only for those families, because the problem is we are having more storms today.
Right. These storms are going to continue through, and these crews are still out there working through these issues while those storms are coming in. Once those storms are in, they're not going to be able to be up there during that time, and there's going to definitely be, we can presumably say that there's going to be more of these outages coming, or that it's going to make getting out of these power outages and back onto the network that much tougher. So we got to be patient with DTE. They're doing their best. They were out there right away. Last night, after I left here, after I was called off of here by our management at the end of the day, because there was really nothing that we could do any further to get the power situation back here and get back to our regular programming and broadcasts for the day, I went to the local Kroger here to pick some things up for my dad, and as I'm driving down there and turned left at Orchard Lake and Walnut Lake on the Orchard, of course the police were there directing traffic, but also as I turned left right away, the first thing I see is a DTE truck on the side of the road already working on the power line. So within an hour or two of the power outage, at least in our general area of the building here, they were out there already working. So they've been working since the onset of this power outage. They were prepared for it, and they're doing their best, but we do need to be patient.
And, you know, the crazy thing is, people remember, when the traffic lights are out, you have to treat it as a four-way stop. Right. So my husband came home from work. It was like midnight, and he called because he was like, hey, do you need me to come home on my dinner break to help you give Trixie her medicine? You know, a little bit challenging with the 70-pound dog, because you're having to open the mouth.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's not fun with any animal.
But I have a secret, but I didn't tell my husband my secret. So, but I said no, and I was like, you can't come home anyway because you're in Southfield. And it's going to take you so long to get home because the power, all the traffic lights were out. So I came up Maple, from Maple all the way to Square Lake, or Telegraph, you know, Maple all the way up to Square Lake. All the power was out. Not only the traffic lights, but all the businesses as well. And I was like, unless those, you know, traffic lights are fixed, and I don't think they are, because it was quite the light show that Mother Nature gave us last night. You're not making it home in time for a dinner break to give the dog her pills and to make it back into work. Yeah. So I was like, I got this. But I will say I woke up this morning 5:30 and tried to get the dog up, and it was just lightning like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I woke up to that too, and surprisingly, out in Wixom, we didn't have any sort of a power situation there, but there were pockets of it all around us. I mean, I was driving in this morning, and it was the same deal. When I going through the Wixom and Novi area, no real problems until I got into Walled Lake, and in Walled Lake there were several lights consecutively leading up the Pontiac Trail and getting onto Maple Road before M5. They were all at four-way stops. And it really wasn't until I got back into the general vicinity of M5 and into Commerce that those lights were back up and active. And even then, getting into the West Bloomfield area, there were still some lights that were not active, and still some four-way stops. So there continues to be pockets all over the area where power is back up, but other pockets where it's not, because the systems are still very much being taxed right now. There's a lot of backfilling of the power that's going on through the system to try to sustain as much as possible. But you know, this is not an easy task for DTE in any situation, but especially when there are such widespread outages all throughout the local area. That includes critical systems as well that are, of course, going to be their priority.
Yeah, and I thought the West Bloomfield Police Department had sent out a tweet about their phones being down.
Okay.
But 911 was still working. But I'm on Twitter now, and I don't see it. But, of course, it's slow. So, just keep that in mind as you're heading out. But I'm glad you had power, at least when you went home.
Yeah, that was nice. And we checked some of the power outages before we left here, and I was really surprised too, because we were checking the outage map to see, where this was widespread, see how it affected our local area, Town Hall, the other communities, and seeing the Kegel Harbor and Orchard Lake area not have any real major coverage on that outage map was a surprise to me too. So like you were saying, your power, and I'm not sure if you did have experiences with it, but none at all.
No.
Yeah, that shocked me, because I've always known, at least because I'm in the Facebook groups for Kegel Harbor and Sylvan Lake for work over here, and I see all the time, even on days where you would think, okay, there's not a really weather-related reason for power to go out, that they have power. So my joke is always that if a leaf moves slightly left or right, the entire city is going to lose their power, and so that was kind of surprising, but also really nice for our viewers and our listeners out in Kegel Harbor and Sylvan Lake in that area, that while everyone else was having their power outages last night, you got to experience what's normally the opposite way around.
Yes, and I will say it could be because they came through the neighborhood 2 weeks ago to trim all of our trees. So
yeah, those winds were serious. Those were not regular thunderstorm winds. That's we had one of those classic lake hurricanes coming through.
I was driving home in bubbles.
Yeah. Oh no.
It was like,
the humanity.
Here's a test for Bubbles. Bubbles, by the way, is my smart car.
Yes.
And but it really wasn't the wind. It was the major puddles.
Right.
Like so many of the roads, like halfway of the road, and you'd get up, and SUVs just automatically right through.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't get around to the other lane. Traffic is coming. Do I try to make it through in my little smart car?
I was thinking for a moment there when I got out of my car to walk back to the building yesterday. I put my umbrella up, and it just immediately swooshed into the air. And I'm like, finally, I'm going to finally pull the Mary Poppins over here, and I'll fly the rest of the way over there. That was kind of disappointing.
Well, we hopefully everyone is safe out there, and again, just have a little bit of patience. And I will say a good thing to do is download the DTE app, and you can report things, but obviously check and see if your neighbors have reported as well. And then you can monitor how often or what is the time frame that they anticipate your electricity coming back on. I will say I thought our power would go out, so I was surprised it was on when I got home, and the first thing I did was plug in my computer and plug in my phone. With the phone, I was like, I could charge that out my car if I need to.
Right.
But I thought for sure the computer, because now it's everything, right?
Right.
So Trixie Dixie, of course, is still under the weather. So with the storms, you can't really move her around. So she's in her crate. And so I put a fan on her, and then I put a movie on for her. I've reached I need an intervention because I'm the crazy pet parent. The last few nights, I've been putting dog movies on for her.
Very, very nice of you.
Last night was Benji.
Okay.
But no, like there's a new Benji.
Oh, the new one. Okay.
There's a new one. And I will say, I got a little teary-eyed.
Oh, how about that?
Because it kind of looked like Trixie the dog. I was like, it kind of looks like you, Trix. And I put the computer in her crate so she could watch it. And it really was like she was watching it. When the dog barked, her little head came up and tilted. I know. I need help.
That's just like, my cats, when I was living with my dad a few years back, when his cats were still alive, we would watch Sunday morning on CBS, their news magazine.
Oh, I love that.
And they do the segment at the end where they have just a shot out in nature somewhere all over the U.S.
Yeah.
And they loved the segment with the birds. And they'd walk up to the dresser where we had where we had the TV on, and they would start just jumping at the TV. They wouldn't reach it because it was too high up for them at that point in their life and with their old legs, but they'd try, and they would be locked in. And these were two cats that never focused on anything, but they would be locked in. I haven't tried it with my cats because they will attack, and they are very agile. Maybe sometime later on.
Why don't you just go over to Dodge Park and record them?
I could. I could just go record the birds over there and just put them on my phone and have them run at me. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a better idea.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump into the headlines. Were you even able to post the headlines?
We were, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. The Auditor General is going to be reviewing Michigan's COVID-related nursing home death data. State Auditor General is going to conduct the review to determine the accuracy of Michigan's data pertaining to COVID-related deaths at long-term care facilities. Michigan's Auditor General, Doug Ringler, estimated the audit is going to be complete between late September and the middle of October. And this is at the request of State Rep. Steve Johnson, who is a Republican. Ringler, who was appointed in 2014, was chosen by a majority vote of lawmakers for an 8-year term. Ringler's office is tasked with conducting post-financial and performance audits of all branches, departments, offices, boards, authorities, and other institutions. Johnson requested the Office of Auditor General undertake a comprehensive study of the reported and unreported deaths in long-term care facilities following questions over the reliability of the state's data. The Department of Health and Human Services said it had received a request from the office and they welcomed the opportunity to meet with the team. Look, at the end of the day, whether there was negligence here or not, Hertel has pretty much admitted their system is crap. It's not talking to other systems,
right.
Nor did they do the things. It can't collect the data that is needed for them to be able to try to determine some of this information and these numbers. And why are the numbers important? They're not numbers, they're lives, but it's important so that we can help prevent it in the future or be better prepared as well. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes the Auditor Generals are really kind of nonpartisan and they do a good job, at least the Auditor General's office in Detroit. So let's hope that comes to play here, because I will say how politics has come to play in some of these issues with our public health and our law enforcement, there's no room for it. Start putting the politics aside, and let's get this done.
Right, and we know there were errors. We know that there were mix-ups. There were communication errors, and whatever the case may be, and then maybe even some negligence in there that we may more definitively learn of as time goes on. We know all of that has happened in some capacity or others. But the problem here is we need to know why, and we need to know how to better solve it for the future. Because at the very least, the least that we can do for the people that are these numbers, the people that did die, the people that did come down with severe cases of COVID-19 and were hospitalized and now have long-term symptoms because of their experience with COVID-19. Those that had COVID but survived, but went through the harrowing time in their lives. The least that we can do for them is figure out what went wrong and put systems in place and improve the systems that are in place so that this doesn't happen during the next crisis, whether it be a public health crisis or something else. Because if there's miscommunication, if there are mental errors, if there are communication errors that are being made, and certainly if there's negligence that was in place during this emergency, and any emergency, that is critical, and that could be fatal for a lot of people's lives.
Hey, Japan has declared a state of emergency in Tokyo through the Olympics due to the COVID-19 surge. So this is really kind of a warning to all of us here in America as well, as we continue to go about our lives with so many restrictions lifted. COVID-19 hasn't left us just yet, and the IOC president, Thomas Bach, arrived in Tokyo on Thursday just as a ban on spectators at the Olympics is likely after the Japanese Prime Minister announced a state of emergency because of rising coronavirus infections in the capital. So the Prime Minister said the state of emergency would go in effect on Monday. It's going to last through August 22nd. That means the Olympics, opening on July 23rd and running through August 9th, will be held entirely under emergency measures. It's to prevent the resurgence of the future spread of cases across the country. The IOC president's arrival comes just 2 weeks before the postponed Tokyo Games are to open. The IOC and local organizers are attempting to hold the games during the pandemic despite opposition from the Japanese public as well as the medical community. So really the main focus of the emergency is a request for bars, restaurants, and karaoke parlors serving alcohol to close, because there is a ban on serving alcohol is key to try to tone down the Olympic-related festivities and keep people from drinking and partying. You get it.
Yes.
Stop drinking.
Exactly.
No partying.
And that's also been something that's been reported for the Olympic Village as well, that they're not going to be providing as much alcohol and other materials that lead to partying and other festivities that are typical of the Olympic Village to prevent commingling between athletes at this year's Olympics. And of course, what is also interesting here to know is, despite this public health emergency still being severe in Japan, and especially in a large city like Tokyo, and there being such opposition, as is marked in this article from ESPN, to the games going on from public health officials and from members of the public as well, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, is the only institution contractually between the agreement between the IOC and Japan that can postpone the games or cancel the games. Japan cannot back out. It's only up to the IOC, which makes this even more complicated. And that's why Japan is taking these measures. It's the last thing really that they can do, short of saying we're not going to participate and then violate their contract, which that's a non-starter.
And you know, the thing that's hard about this, we have the vaccine this year, and so it's supposed to be what's going to help move us out of this pandemic. So should they maybe have delayed the Olympics another year?
Yeah.
You think about these athletes who've trained so hard and so long, and then when they go to the Olympics, it's not going to be the same experience.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they should have. I think that going another year with it, yeah, there's going to be a 2-year gap between 2022 and 2024. Oh no, maybe you go and you have the Winter and the Summer Olympics both be in the same year for a while, see how you run with that, or, you know, at least for 2022, hold the Winter Olympics in the winter, hold the Summer Olympics in the summer. They're two separate games. Yeah, it's a lot more work for the IOC, but it is having two normal Olympic games in a calendar year better or worse than having a rushed games that are reluctantly being participated in from the host country and many of the other countries as well that are participating, and with some concern of commingling between athletes in the Olympic Village, which is bound to happen one way or another, and spectators being around the games. Yeah, the lesser of two evils would be to wait another year. You're still going to make all the same profits that you'd be making in 2020 or in 2021 by holding these games. But without the public health emergency that's going on in Japan right now, get the vaccine out to the rest of the world, because countries like Japan are nowhere near where we are in the U.S. So while we're looking like we're out of the pandemic, they're nowhere near that point yet. They're months behind us right now, and this is frankly just disrespectful to their people.
Hey, Michigan's COVID-19 outbreaks dropped 89% in a month. So a month ago, Michigan was tracking 523 active COVID-19 outbreaks. So on Wednesday, the state updated its count to 56 active outbreaks, including 2 newly discovered clusters, 54 ongoing outbreaks. So the state saw an 89% decrease in active outbreaks since June 7th, 54% decrease since last week. Of course, this is according to data from the Department of Health and Human Services. An outbreak is generally defined as an instance in which 2 or more cases are linked by a place and time, indicating a shared exposure outside of a household. So the latest 2 outbreaks involved long-term care facility and a social gathering. Among the ongoing outbreaks, 18 were tied to assisted living facilities, 15 to manufacturing and construction sites. No other setting reported more than 3 outbreaks. So again, while other countries are still struggling, here in the United States, in the state of Michigan, good news though, because for so many months we were seeing that third surge, which other states weren't.
Yeah, and we were experiencing major surges here. We went from being in the lower tier of states in terms of COVID-19 cases to being one of the more saturated states in the United States in the most recent outbreak. So having that 89% drop in cases over a month is a dramatic change from where we were just a short while ago, and really shows how effective the vaccine process has been, and the more recent changes to regulations in place have been in preventing COVID-19 from spreading here in the state of Michigan.
And with that, we'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. As a reminder, though, you could check out the latest headlines. Go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. When we come back, we are going to be joined by the Associate Director of University Recreation and Wellbeing over at Oakland University. That's next here on the Megacast.
To Sofia and Gabriel, even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
To Sofia and Gabriel, even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Great to have you with us on the Megacast. If you have power and electricity, be grateful this morning as you are waking up, because so many people do not. And shout out to all the linemen out there who are going to be working around the clock and battling Mother Nature to try to get your electricity back on. So you can always catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Catch us Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also listen to us on the radio. That's not enough. Just go to our Facebook page where we live stream the today's Megacast. Are we live streaming?
We are. We are live streaming today, yes. We got that up about a half hour before the show. That was not one of the buzzer beater things.
Well, look at that. Yeah. Mother Nature can't stop us.
No, Mother Nature can't stop the power of Mark Zuckerberg.
Hey, Becky Lewis, we want to bring you into the show. She's the Associate Director of the University Recreation and Wellbeing at Oakland University. I see you guys have electricity.
We do have electricity this morning. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you. Really, when you kind of feel guilty, though, when you drive down the street and you see other people without power, and then you're running the fan, the lights, the TV on upstairs, the TV downstairs, you're at the gym. Sorry.
We have everything ready to go. We open at 11, so we're up and running.
So with that, for all the people without electricity, the gym is a great place to go, right? Because you could tell your boss, I can't remote work today. I don't have power, but you could still get in a workout.
You still can get in a workout. We're open from 11 to 7 today for our members, our students who are here, community people who want to come over and get a guest pass and join us. They're welcome to come on in.
How does that work with the community?
Community members can join. They can come in, like I said, with a guest pass. We do offer those, but they can also purchase memberships. We offer a 1-month, 4-month, and a 12-month option for anyone who wants to join and participate in what we have to offer here at Oakland.
Wow, I wish I lived a little bit closer, because I'd be in on that, especially the 1 month. There's nothing worse than these, like, oh, it's a 5-year and your first baby contract type thing with the gym.
We allow people to have an opportunity to try us out, and then they can always extend it if they'd like to continue on with us.
So, Becky, what's it been like for you and your staff throughout the pandemic? Because the gyms really were some of the last ones to be able to reopen.
Absolutely. we waited every day like everybody else. And then last fall, we were able to reopen. We've had abbreviated hours for this entire year and through this summer. So 11 to 7, like I mentioned. We anticipate being full speed in the fall, where we open at 5:30 in the morning or 6. And we're still negotiating some hours and figuring out what's going to work best for the campus community. But we will be open and full speed. It's been a welcome addition to be able to have people back in our facility and participating in our programs and utilizing our services.
Because how has it been? Because so many of the students have been remote, so they're not there on campus.
No, but we have a lot of students who do, working out and using a gym is part of their routine, a part of a lot of people's routines. So I think the ones that were able to come and were close by did, even if they weren't living on campus. And they were taking classes remote. We've seen a lot of our students starting to return, and the number of participations every day is increasing as people come back to campus in more full speed.
I will say I found it a little bit crazy that through the pandemic, the liquor stores were allowed to be open, but the gyms were not, because we know for so many people, working out and having that routine is vital, not only to their physical health, but their mental health as well.
Right. Physical and mental health go hand in hand. I think it's imperative that people try and stay physically active as best as possible. When we were shut down, we did offer some outdoor programming so that people could come and engage with us as best as possible. We will continue some of that. We have the fitness court out in front of our facility, so that will continue. But again, we're going to continue with our in-person classes and programs, some virtual. We also have a library of fitness classes people are able to tap into. So depending on a person's comfort level and how they feel about re-engaging in person, they're going to have different options if they join with us.
So you mentioned a library of fitness classes. Is that online?
Yeah, they can access it through our Facebook. They don't have to be a Facebook user. They can just go in and use OU Rec Well on our Facebook page, and a lot of our group fitness classes are there. We switched over, like a lot of gyms did during the pandemic in the early days, to get people recording classes online. So there are options for people at every level. We are excited, though, to bring back our in-person classes this fall, and we will have a full schedule.
And how is that going to look? If I'm a student, is that included in my tuition?
Students have access to the rec center with 1 paid credit hour and their Grizz ID. So that's all they need. They don't have to pay anything extra to take our group exercise classes. We do have a fee-based personal training program that's really inexpensive for students and our members to utilize, but otherwise, if they're a member here and they're a student here, they have access to those classes. And we have a variety of classes, and they're taught by students and non-students. So it really depends on what the person's looking for. I'm confident they'll find something that they like and that they can do.
Becky Lewis with us here on the Megacast. She's the Associate Director of University Recreation and Wellbeing over at Oakland University. And Becky, if I can ask you, not only students, but really so many of us in the public, we've gotten out of the routine, and getting back into the routine of working out, it's hard to do. So what advice do you give people to get off the couch, turn off Netflix, and get back to being active?
I think people need to start slow, because we've had a pause, some more than others. Some people have maintained their fitness routine as best as possible, and that's fantastic. Other people have put it on hold, and they're just sort of restarting, and it's okay. But they need to start slow. They need to find out what they're comfortable doing. What is that level of comfort that they have? Is it in the gym? Is it outside still? And once they figure that out, then they can ease back in. I think taking it slow and gradual so you avoid injuries is important. People that have been on pause need to, ease back into it. You're not going to run a marathon on your first day back in the gym. And also, I think it's important to be social. And if you're struggling a little bit or you're concerned, maybe find a friend to come to the gym with you and work out. We are a very social place. Most gyms and rec centers are. So having that buddy is also a motivation to get there, but also might help people with their comfort level as they re-enter.
And with that, can we, obviously, we have to talk a little bit about how have things changed for people when they return to the gym? Because while sanitation and masks were all the rage, not all the rage, but we were all utilizing them, as we've started to emerge out of the pandemic, we are seeing people not doing that quite as often as what we were in the beginning and the middle. So what will be the protocols there at the gym?
We've always taken cleaning seriously, so all of our equipment is cleaned by our staff working. We also encourage all of our participants and patrons to clean their own equipment before and after they use it, just out of common courtesy, but also for themselves and their own comfort level. Mask wearing is completely optional. If you're unvaccinated, we are asking that you wear a mask still. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to, but if you feel more comfortable doing so, and the gym is a place where some people are still uncomfortable, they're more than welcome to wear one here. No one's judging anyone. We're an open space and welcome to everyone. I think, you know, our equipment was spaced out. We've moved some things back together, but we still have the option of being, you know, every other piece of equipment for people that don't want to be totally next to someone, unless it is their best friend or a buddy. But they have those options. And we'll continue to work with people and feel out comfort levels and make those adjustments as necessary.
I will say there's nothing more irritating when you go to the gym and there are 20 empty treadmills and some stranger wants to come jump on the treadmill right next to you.
Stay away from me.
No, go down. Sometimes I've said to people, oh, or I'll make a point and I'll stop and I'll get off and I'll move down. And it's not that, but if I don't know you, like you are at a different pace or something and it throws me off. So there's a little bit of gym courtesy there.
There's always people that have, you know, don't understand people's personal space limitations. But I do think with COVID, people are more respectful of that and they are looking and they're choosing, you know, they come in here in the fitness center. I'm sitting in the fitness center right now. They walk in, they have their choice of a lot of different pieces and they can space themselves out.
So that could be the benefit coming out of COVID. People are a little bit more aware. And I will say you also mentioned wipe down the equipment before and after, just as not only as a courtesy, but for your own safety. Because even though the gym cleans the equipment, you can't always do it in between every use. And I will say years ago, one of our, you know, sweep stories was to go in and do the swabs on some of the equipment in gyms and stuff. Well, of course you're going to have germs, you know, right. So for people, that's why they have the sanitizer. That's why they have the wipes.
When we first reopened, we did a system where we had a card on every piece of equipment. When someone got off, it got turned. So then the students working would clean the piece and they would flip it over so the next user would know that that piece had been cleaned. But I do think for everyone's own personal comfort level, it is a good idea to always wipe down your equipment before you even start, just out of habit.
Right. We don't want your cooties.
No.
I will say, so there's always that one person though when you go to like a spin class, and it's I don't mean to pick on guys, Tyler, but it's typically a guy, and they are just a huge sweat box, and when they get off, like the whole area around them is dripping in sweat, and it's like disgusting. Kind of clean that up, right. You know, I don't know. The next class is waiting to come in behind you, so be courteous.
Yes, we have mops, we do it all, but yes, there's always that person.
So Becky, with that, if the general public is interested in joining, what are the typical fees?
It depends on their situation. You know, anywhere from $30 to $100, it goes up to $400 for the annual fees. I would encourage someone who's interested to use our RecWell portal. It's called myrecwell.oakland.edu, and they can go in and click on memberships, and it'll give them all of their options. We also have a a monthly renewal function now that is new for us that they can access as well if they do want to auto renew instead of doing the 1 month, 4 month, or just flat out paying for a 12-month upfront.
So with that as well, Becky, if I could ask you, what type of equipment do you have? And is it classes as well, or just pretty much the hard equipment?
No, if someone joins the rec, they have access with their membership to our fitness center, which is where I'm sitting. And we have over 150 pieces of different equipment, cardiovascular, selectorized, free weight. And it's a mix of different brands and styles because we have a lot of different users that come in here. We also have, they will also have access to our classes. So whatever's on our group exercise schedule, they can utilize. That's included with their membership. We have the track, we have the basketball courts, we have our Olympic-sized swimming pool for lap swim. So they're welcome to use any of the open spaces in the facility as part of their membership.
And not only a great time, because I think everyone has talked about, instead of the freshman 15, it's the COVID 20.
Absolutely. I think there's value in everybody getting back to the gym in some format.
Absolutely. Well, Becky, we so appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Well, and I hope you get a chance to enjoy the summer, because the students, I know so many of them will be back on campus this fall, and it will probably be a little bit busy for you guys.
It will be busy. We're gearing up now. It's a few short weeks away, and it all starts all over. But we're excited because, like everyone, we want to be back to whatever the new normal is, and welcome all of our new students and students who, didn't even have the full first year experience and even second year experience. So we're happy to have them back.
Well, again, Becky Lewis with us, Associate Director of University Recreation and Wellbeing over at Oakland University. And as a reminder, the rec center there, not just available for the students, but for the general public as well. And I will say, when she mentioned the prices for everything that you get, if you live close by, that is a great deal.
It is. Oh, yeah. Yeah, compared to a lot of other gyms, especially where you're going to get locked in at these other places for, year-long contracts, and you can back out of them, but you'd rather just run into an electric fence instead.
With that, sometimes, Tyler, I'm just like, I don't know how to take it. Whatever. Hey, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a member of the Poison Center, because we are in the middle of the summer. And what can that mean, and the dangers that are lurking out there? That's next here on the Megacast.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org. People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Thank you for being with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. As a reminder, you can always catch previous episodes of the Megacast on civiccentertv.com. Just go to Megacast and there you'll find all the previous episodes, or click on demand for the individual interviews. Tyler, I see you're having some issues.
No, it's just I'm just frustrated with our playback system over here. It's having its own little issues this morning, saying, "Oh yeah, no, you're on the trial version. It's fine." So it doesn't play something. It doesn't matter.
Well, look, we're lucky we're even on the air today.
Yeah, we are. We very much.
I will say, I woke up this morning and obviously Tyler and the team gave a big alert last night that the power is out and there was a possibility we wouldn't be doing the show today. And so when I woke up today and, with the dog and it's still sleeping on the couch next to the dog and I'm like, oh, I really could use this morning off because I have meetings all afternoon. So, but no, then you get the note. And I was like, should I go ahead and start, writing everything? And then I was like, better to be safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm. Always.
But you know what, though? We are grateful that we have power today.
We are.
So with that, hey, it is a new season. And when the weather turns a bit warmer, there are new dangers out there when it comes to being exposed to poison. And with that, we want to go ahead and bring in Dr. Varun Vohra. He's the academic director and clinical toxicologist over at Michigan Poison Center. Great to have you back on with us, Doctor. How's your summer going?
Thanks, Ronnie. How you doing? Pretty good. How was your long weekend?
Too short.
I feel you.
I always feel like you need a day or two to recover from a long weekend.
Agreed. Yeah, it's kind of a slap in the face once you come back from it, but it takes some readjusting for sure.
With that, Doctor, as we're in the middle of the summer, I think about, for so many of us, we're getting together with our friends more, and that can lead to certain dangers. And the number one on my list that I always think about is food poisoning. I was sick last week, and I swear I had food poisoning, and I don't want to name the restaurant, but with that, what should people know when it comes to that?
Yeah, so it's kind of multifaceted with food when it comes to preparation, storage, things like grilling. A lot of people are, getting together outdoors and barbecuing and whatnot. So starting with food preparation, I think above all, washing your hands before and drying them off before preparing food. I think where people get into a lot of trouble is when they prepare meats, poultry, seafood, and whatnot. You want to make sure that you're washing all the products, fruits, veggies, meats, seafood, whatever have you, before using. And you want to keep them separate too. So fruits and vegetables, you want to keep them separate away from other items like the meats and the seafood. And always when you're switching food items, when handling them, what have you, always wash your hands to avoid some sort of cross-contamination. And we want to make sure that you're cleaning the surfaces entirely as well. Any surfaces that you're preparing food on, you want to clean them with disinfectant, soap, and water. And you want to keep those food items separate as well from different surfaces if you can. But if you have to use the same surfaces, make sure that you're thoroughly cleaning them. And then when it comes to food storage, that's a whole nother ball game in a way. So you want to keep, it's a popular adage, keep cold foods cold and hot foods hot. It's pretty simplistic, but sometimes people do forget that. And when you're not using foods that you're going to be eventually storing, you want to make sure that you're storing them as soon as possible, keeping them refrigerated until they're ready to cook, as well as packing raw meats and poultry and seafood separately away from other cold food items and drinks. And you want to keep those meats at certain temperatures too. So typically the meat products, typically at something like 40 Fahrenheit or less than 4 degrees Celsius is usually a good temperature to keep them at. The fruits and vegetables that you're not using that you want to keep cold, you want to make sure that they're not out for more than 2 hours, let's say, out at room temperature. And really hot temperatures, when it gets really hot like it was over the weekend, over 90 degrees, you want to make sure that they're not out for more than an hour, just because we want to reduce the amount of potential bacteria growth that can fester on those food items that can pose potential risks.
I'm thinking about this, and we know every single time that we have a barbecue or we're out with our friends that we violate these rules. And, even down to the simple thing of which cutting board do you use for which type of product, because you have wood ones. Should you even still use wood cutting boards?
I don't see why not. I personally do, but I think the most important thing is keeping those food items separate. Keep like with like, essentially. So keeping, again, the fruits and veggies and different types of drinks or other products that are not meat products away from the actual meat products, and keeping them sort of compartmentalized if you can. But if you have to reuse anything, again, making sure that you're thoroughly disinfecting and cleaning everything to avoid cross-contamination, and washing your hands. Whenever in doubt, just, if you can't remember, there's a lot of steps, a lot of checklists that have to be addressed. Just wash your hands if you're in doubt, and disinfect it if you can't remember.
So, Doctor, I have to tell you, for years I had to do a segment called the Restaurant Report Card, and I will say I hated it. I hated it every Thursday, but I always had to go to the health department, dig through the health, the inspection reports every single week, and I even took the class on safe food handling, and I will say most people would not pass that inspection in their own personal kitchen.
Right. Yeah, it's people take a lot for granted. I think it's more mitigating that risk, because when it does happen, it can be pretty bad. So it might not happen very often, but you want to make sure that you're covering all your bases and making sure that you're keeping you and your loved ones safe, especially children as well, who will be doing a lot of eating and getting into things. So there's a lot of attention that needs to be paid in these situations.
And a lot of it was always, most of the violations tended to be about out of temperature, food products that were out of temperature. And I'm thinking about it, we all do that. And we, especially more so in the summer, I think, than in the winter time, because we're outside so much more. We cook food, we put it out, people kind of graze. And usually if you're entertaining a group, that's over several hours that some of that food can be sitting out. So when does someone know that they do in fact have food poisoning?
I think, when you'll get those typical symptoms, pretty relatively early on, the GI symptoms, whether you feel nauseous, you might, be running a fever, vomiting, diarrhea, those kind of icky type of symptoms, obviously. And if it's not getting any better, usually within a day or so, usually you're right on the path to knowing that something's amiss here, and it may have been something that you may have consumed. I think the important thing also is tracing back your steps in terms of what you ate. Are other people symptomatic as well? Did other people eat the same things? Because if someone ate something, the same exact thing, and are fine, may you have gotten a certain piece that may have been contaminated with something, possibly, but it's a good checklist to run down to kind of rule out potential exposures, and kind of narrow down possibly the source.
We're talking with Dr. Varun Vohra. He's the academic director and clinical toxicologist over at the Michigan Poison Center. And if I can ask you, Doctor, as we're emerging into summer, what other typical problems do you see around this time of year?
Yeah, so I think in the same vein as food prep and food storage, I think on the same note with grilling and barbecuing, people are going to be using their grills quite a bit. Making sure to clean those grills and the debris off the grates between grilling different food items, I think, is really important. Never reuse seasonings that have touched meat or poultry or seafood. That's things that they've been soaking in. Never reuse those. And I think, children are out and about as well, outside in and around the area. So you want to make sure that charcoal lighter fluid is away from them as well, because it is a hydrocarbon, what we call a hydrocarbon. It can cause symptoms such as vomiting and, choking in kids, and potentially increase the risk of aspiration in the lungs, which can be very, very serious. So, and you also want to make sure that the charcoal lighter fluid is away from a lit grill as well. And just keeping the foods at a safe temperature, again, I think is super important. In line with July 4th, even the summer, fireworks are a big exposure risk as well. And you want to make sure that there's a whole host of risks there. So keeping children away from lighting fireworks, or doing it in a very, very safe environment, making sure that they're pointing away from people. There's certain malfunctioning fireworks as well. Never try to relight a malfunctioning firework that did not go off. Making sure that you're wearing eye protection if possible. But usually it's best to keep it away at a very, very safe distance away from a group of people, and having, say, one person as the point person to do the lighting of the fireworks, and pointing away from everyone, including themselves. And just keeping children supervised in that setting. And then I think the most salient or other salient in line with the long weekend and summer season is boating as well. A lot of people are going to be out on the water. So I think carbon monoxide, what a lot of people don't realize is that boats can be big sources of carbon monoxide with generators. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, I've been covering the boat safety story every year for how many years? And really, this is the first time anyone's brought that up, and it's such a great point. I'm surprised it hasn't been, put on a bigger platform prior to now.
Yeah, not a lot of people associate boating with carbon monoxide. They usually, associate it with the similar or common sources such as running cars or use of generators. But in a boat, you are using a generator. Then a lot of times they're venting towards the back of the boat. So you want to make sure that the swim deck or platform area that can be a big source of carbon monoxide at times. So you want to make sure that kids, when they're on the swim deck, that they're being supervised, obviously, and you want to make sure that you're not blocking sort of any outlets as well or exhausts, because that can cause a CO buildup or carbon monoxide buildup in the cabin as well, or the cockpit area. You want to make sure also when you're anchoring boats, you want to make sure that you're doing it at a safe distance, 20 feet or more away from other boats that are running generators as well, because that can all culminate in carbon monoxide buildup.
We need to take you out to the Cass Lake Sandbar one weekend, because I can tell you, 20 feet, they're more like
20 inches.
Oh my gosh, it's insane.
Right. I know. And the important thing in that case, I guess, is you don't want boats idling. So if you're going to be anchoring, shut the boat off. You know what I mean? You don't want to keep the generator and the engines running unnecessarily, especially if you're anchored. So that could also be a big source as well, and something that people don't really take heed of because they just haven't really thought about it or don't know about it. So especially in the vicinity of other people and other boats, if you're idling, if you're anchored, just shut the boat off and have partake in the activities that you're planning on doing to enjoy yourself. But taking care of the little details is super important.
Hey, doctor, can I ask you, what's it like to have your knowledge? And when you go out and do things, do you constantly look like, that's dangerous, that's not acceptable, someone's going to get food poisoning, wrap that food up? What's your day-to-day like?
Yeah, I mean, if I really stop to sort of quote unquote smell the roses and looking at what everyone's doing, I'm sure I'd find a number of questionable types of behaviors. But I think that's the importance of our role is to educate people, right? So and we don't really blame people for not knowing or being aware of certain things because they're just not exposed to it. And there's people who don't know much about boats may not know that at all. That the carbon monoxide exposure, for example. So I think, getting that message out there with the outreach and education, spreading the word in a sense with our Poison Center and what we do, and constantly doing it with the help of our Poison Center educator as well, who's been instrumental in disseminating that information to the public and making them more aware of these things that we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, day-to-day accidents happen, things do happen. Children especially get into things unintentionally. It's almost near impossible to keep them supervised 24/7 and monitoring them, helicoptering over them every single day. So we're well aware and understanding that things do happen to everybody. So it's just mitigating the potential risk and being safe out there and responsible.
It's such a great point that you brought up about the boats, because we do know so many people did buy boats over the past year because of the pandemic, and so there are so many new boaters out there. So it's really a great message to touch on. And can we also add that right now here in our area, we've had so many people, it's over 100,000 people right now without electricity due to the storms that rolled through. So do you typically see more calls when storms come through because of so many people using generators improperly?
Yeah, we do, especially in this time of year as well as in the winter as well with generators and heat sources and whatnot. So we typically advise ventilate the areas well. Do not do it in an enclosed space. Keep it away from the house if you're going to be outside as well. And always, if you're in and around the vicinity of the house, always again make sure to vent it towards the outside and away from people, because carbon monoxide is odorless and it's colorless, so you can't detect it. That's what makes it so potentially dangerous. It doesn't have any good warning properties per se. So with people who are potentially exposed, you want to make sure that you're aware of the symptoms. So headache, you could become nauseous, you could vomit, you could have chest pain, and it can lead to much worse, people passing out and losing consciousness. So we want to make sure that people are well aware of the potential risks and recognizing the symptoms, potential signs and symptoms, if they are in any sort of circumstance where they could be exposed.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. We're speaking with Dr. Varun Vohra. He's the academic director and clinical toxicologist over at the Michigan Poison Center. And I also know you're an assistant professor over at the Wayne State University School of Medicine, Department of Emergency Medicine. Just another minute or two here with you on the show. When we're talking about carbon monoxide poisoning, I know there are alert systems. It's been so ingrained in all of us to get smoke detectors, but we haven't had that same messaging when it comes to carbon monoxide detectors. And I think it's one of the best gifts you can give someone when they move into a new place or a new home is to get them one. I know someone did that for us because it really can save lives.
Absolutely, especially in areas where weather can be extreme. I mean, it's not only limited to, say, the winter season, same with summer, what we're seeing now with storms rolling in, people losing a lot of electricity and power, running generators. There's that inherent risk to you and your family. And again, because you can't smell it, you can't see it, that's why we have to rely on detectors to be able to tell us when things have hit a certain threshold where it's worrisome. So making sure that you're up to date, getting your monitors, your carbon monoxide detectors checked frequently, making sure that they're operating optimally, and recognizing the potential signs and symptoms of that you recognize, or if someone is in your household that is complaining of certain signs and symptoms, such as the nausea, the headache, vomiting, dizziness, possibly passing out. I mean, obviously that's going to be a key telltale right there that something's amiss. Chest pain, your heart's going to be beating pretty fast. So those are important signs to look out for, but absolutely detectors they should be universal.
Doctor, just one last question for you too, because when we're talking about people without electricity, the question always comes up regarding, food that's left in their refrigerator and their freezers. How long is it good for? We don't want it to be laying out for very long. I mean, in the setting of hours, I mean, I would be, the first thing that I would be doing is if you have coolers, that you can either purchase ice from, say, a convenience store, if it's nearby, if you are able to, that would be key, or going into, say, a basement, a very cool area, where you can keep things cool for a little while. But I don't like to keep my food out of the freezer for more than several hours, just because you can increase the risk of bacteria growth, right? And I'm not sure if you're aware, but there has been a recent recall, not necessarily because of the temperature possibly, but with chicken items, a national recall of several brands because of bacteria growth, or listeriosis. So there's an inherent risk there. It's quite serious. So if you are in doubt of how long things have been out for, or at room temperature that should be frozen, the best piece of advice would just be to discard it. Don't use it, get rid of it, and you can always buy more food. Well, the saying is, when in doubt, throw it out. Quickly, right. What is the 1-800 number for people to call?
Sure. So you can contact us. So we are officially, as of today, the Michigan Poison and Drug Information Center. So we have changed our name, since we don't deal with just poisons. We deal with everything regarding drug information. So that's going to be a new little highlight and update. But it's 1-800-222-1222, and you can follow us on social media as well, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Well, we always appreciate your time and all the work that you're doing as well to keep all of us safe. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie.
Again, anyone out there, please keep in mind as we go through the summer months, especially everyone out there without electricity right now, when in doubt, throw it out. But if you need their services, you can always call the 1-800 number, post it everywhere in your home, put it on the door, on the refrigerator, make it easy, because when you're in a crisis, in a panic mode, you do not want to be searching for that number. With that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we are excited to have Andy Levin with us here on the Megacast. That's next here on the show.
Here's one more reason to get the COVID-19 vaccine. It's your shot to win. Anyone 18 years or older in Michigan vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. For eligibility details and to enter, go to mishottowin.com.
How does marijuana affect the teen brain?
Our brains are still developing into our 20s.
With regular use, marijuana can affect teen brain development.
It can affect our brain's circuitry and blood flow and impair thinking, learning, and memory function,
which could hold us back from reaching our potential.
Don't let marijuana mess with your brain.
Get the facts at michigan.gov/drug-free.
So, Tyler, is it weird that I'm excited that we have PSAs that aren't COVID related?
Not really. And that's really that odd. I'm pretty excited too. Just putting them on there, being like, okay, I'm finally getting rid of this one. We're finally getting rid of this one. Oh yeah, no more testing PSA there. Okay, we'll keep vaccinated. You should get vaccinated still. We'll keep that one in there. But everyone else, you're done. You're retired. Thank you for your service.
Well, we have been making progress, but of course we're not out of the pandemic just yet. But I will say we have to give a shout out. It doesn't matter which political side of the aisle you sit on. We do know our elected leaders have really tried to help us navigate this crazy past year, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we're on the back side of this. Always great to have Congressman Andy Levin with us here on the Megacast. Of course, he represents the 9th District. Thank you for being with us. How are you? How was your 4th?
Hey, Ronnie, it was great. We only had one parade that, survived the late COVID period. It was in Huntington Woods, and it was wonderful to march in that parade. And it was, I guess, a little bittersweet this year because that's the community that Danny Fenster is from, my constituent who is stuck in a horrible prison in Burma or Myanmar. And so just the way that community has lifted up Danny, supported his cause, the way his family has rallied the whole community, it's so inspiring. And, we celebrate the birthday of our country, our own freedom. And so we sort of demanded freedom for one of our people. And it felt perfect. And we're just bound and determined to get him the heck out of there. So it was a special 4th in that way.
And Congressman, can you give us a little bit of background when these situations happen? What work can you do behind the scenes to try to help secure his safe return?
Well, so there's a number of parts to that, Ronnie. There's the official part of working with our State Department, other parts of our government, our embassy in Burma, our ambassador there, Tom Vida. I email or talk to him multiple times every week. Our special envoy for hostages and detainees, Roger Karstens, he visited the Fenster family with me for hours. He's got staff working on this full time. So there's all that official work, and that's very important. Then there's the work that, as a congressperson, you're out there in the public trying to encourage people, educate people, serve people. And so just getting the message out, like we were able to get Bono and U2 to join in the chorus demanding Danny's freedom, and my colleagues in the Congress. So there's kind of that, I guess you'd say, just kind of, megaphone of trying to raise up the issue. And then there's also sort of back channel things that you can't really talk about publicly, but we are certainly, let's just say, engaging any party that might be able to influence the military in Burma to let Danny go free. And that's a very important part too. And we're certainly pursuing that very actively.
And hopefully when people hear of Danny's story, that they come to realize the freedom of the press that we have here in the United States. And I know that journalists aren't well liked or well trusted, over the recent decade or so, but we have to say and appreciate that we do have a voice here in America, and for one of our own to, take on that challenge in a foreign country, to give the people there a voice. Despite knowing the dangers, we have to honor and respect that. And I will say, I remember reading the book Laura and Lisa Ling. They wrote after Laura Ling's capture in North Korea, and all the back channels that are going on, the political side of some of these captures, so that we know that there's so much more work that you and your team and others in DC are doing to try to hopefully bring him home safely. So a little bit of overshadowing though for the holiday season for you.
Well, but just the connection you just made. Look, you and Tyler are free to, if you find out facts, information, the truth that's troubling to the powers that be, to me, to the mayor of a city, to the governor, to the president, you are free to tell it, to get the story out. And there is no democracy or even really good governance, really, is there, without a free press. And so here's this kind of inspiring young man from Michigan, Danny Fenster, who had actually been in Burma a couple years. He didn't go there because of the coup. He was there before. And he was reporting, he was editing, he worked for, a web news service, and he was getting the truth out. And it's so crucial for the whole world that, whether it's Americans or Burmese people, doing that work. And so it really does tie into the 4th of July, because it's about our freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. And so I think that while we're upset that he's there and we want, we're fighting to get him out, his work does symbolize what the holiday's all about. So it ties to.
How's his family doing?
Oh, I mean, on one hand, I'll say amazing. They're doing amazingly well. They're so stalwart. You can't believe, Ronnie, they've got like the siblings, the cousins, the in-laws. They've got, they've divided up the work. Who's working with the press, who's working with the human rights groups, who's working with, the government. I mean, it's just wonderful the way they've come together. But, you can only imagine how hard it is. And especially for Buddy and Rose, for his parents. I mean, I've got 4 kids. I really can't imagine, even though I'm sitting there talking to them all the time. It's just to have your child in that situation is a horrible thing. And so we just have to focus on getting him out. But he's, you can look at everything glass half full, glass half empty, right? I mean, glass half empty, all this, he was captured on May 24th, and a month and a half later, he has still not been granted in-person consular access. Our American government people have not even been able to see him in person and visit with him. It's against international law. It's horrible. Glass half full, we've started to get phone access each week, and his family is able to get on the phone with him. And you can just imagine, more than anything else, for Danny to actually hear his sibling, his parents, talk to them, just lifted his spirits so much. And so hopefully the weekly access this week will take place tomorrow morning, Burmese time, which is late tonight, our time. By 11 at night, it's already tomorrow morning in Myanmar. So, the family's just done an amazing job of keeping his story out there, and they're getting along as best they can. But we're just all one big team, Team America, trying to bring our boy home. So
Well, with that, we, everyone, I will say, the entire community, the entire state of Michigan has really been behind this family. And in telling his story, they're also telling the story of the people he was there to report on. So let's hope he gets home safely. And but it continues the conversation about the conditions of what's happening and why he was there to begin with. But if I can kind of shift the conversation a little bit and talk about the conditions here locally, it's been a crazy few weeks. We've had, the massive flooding that went on in, Wayne County, as well as parts of Macomb County. And now, again, we had the big storms yesterday with so many, over 100,000 people without power.
Including me.
You don't have electricity either?
Oh, wow. Not only that, Roddy, my basement flooded worst ever last month. Oh, my God. My wife said the water was coming in, like a window well in the basement. It was up 2/3 of the glass. So she said, get outside with this bucket and start bailing, the window well. And I went outside, and what I saw, I said, honey, you have to come just look at this. Because our backyard, and we live up on top of kind of a hill in Bloomfield Township, our backyard was like a lake like we never saw. Wow. And so we had, she has, my wife's a big gardener. She just finished the Michigan State Extension Master Gardener thing. And she has, so she's all into it. So she has a rain gauge, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
And I can verify that I think her gauge only goes up to 6 inches, and it was overtopped from that one storm. I mean, it was unbelievable. We never got that much rain at one time in 15 years of living at that house. And then yesterday, I'm sitting in my office in Warren. It took me an hour to drive home to Bloomfield. I got most of the way because, but I started to try to go up Inkster. Nope, closed at Northwestern. Then I went back, couldn't get to Franklin, started going up Telegraph. Had to abandon that, went through the neighborhoods in Franklin, huge trees falling just straight, nobody even there yet to deal with it, and I weaved my way. And so it's bad. I mean, there's these extreme weather events seem to be happening more and more.
And I know the governor tried to blame this last storm and the flooding that happened on the freeways and, in some of the communities in Detroit, on global warming. But at the end of the day, our infrastructure here in the state of Michigan, it just stinks. I mean, it just stinks. So what, we now have this huge plan to try to fix some of these issues. How do we get it done? How do we get it from on paper talking about it to actually fixing it?
Well, I really agree with you, and I am bound and determined to do it. And I'm really excited about it, although it's going to be a super tightrope act in the Congress and with the Biden administration. So we have multiple balls in the air here. We have the president's bipartisan agreement, and I'm all for that, right? But that only covers a small portion of what he proposed in the American Jobs Plan and the America's Families Plan. And then we have the Invest in America Act, which is the surface transportation reauthorization bill, which we have to do. We have to reauthorize it. And that includes a lot on highways, roads, bridges, transit, rail, wastewater, and drinking water infrastructure. And I'm really delighted that the bill contains over $20 million in funding for projects in the 9th District that I proposed after consulting with all 21 cities, townships, and villages in the district. So, it's everything from 11 million for the big Mound Road project in, the innovation project in Macomb, to smaller funding for roads throughout the community in, all over, like, for example, 14-mile in stretches of 14 mile, both in, over in Macomb County and over in Oakland County. So, and two of my amendments to promote electric vehicle charging development were included. So we've got that. But I think the bottom line is this. What's going to happen is we'll finalize the president's bipartisan plan, and then we'll finalize a budget bill for fiscal year 2022 that will have more of his infrastructure and human infrastructure, and then we'll try to pass both of them. And you've got a situation where, God bless Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, their kind of progressive end is saying, well, the bipartisan thing's okay, but we've got to do the more ambitious stuff that, after all, the president proposed. And you got the more moderate people saying, well, we're focused on the bipartisan thing. And so they have to do both. They have to figure out a way to get them together. And there'll be a lot of compromising and a lot of sausage making here in the coming weeks. And my prediction is it'll be after we come back from the August recess that we try to finalize all this and get it passed. But look, we got the American Rescue Plan passed, $1.9 trillion that is whipping us out of this COVID recession. And, you know, in 1 week from today, parents are going to start getting checks for all their kids, you know, which we've never done in this country before. You know, like $300 a month for kids under 6, and $250 a month for kids 6 and over. And that's going to help so many people. So I really think that the president's plans are what we need to build our infrastructure, as you say, which desperately needs it. But also more broadly, like you just have to take the issue of childcare. Women's participation in the labor force. I'm not talking about unemployment, Ronnie. I'm talking about like whether they're even in the workforce to be counted as employed or unemployed. Hit the lowest level in decades because there was no childcare, there was no school, and you know, in our society, it's still a little bit sexist. I mean, the women do the bulk of the caregiving, and they literally had to drop out of the, you know, workforce to deal with it. We've got to have childcare available and reopen our schools to, you know, really fully get people back to work. And so we're really focused on that as well.
So with that, though, in creating this safety net, coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic and the crisis, we've also created a new crisis in that we have businesses that can't keep their doors open because they can't get employees right now because they're on unemployment. And the other problem with unemployment, you know, people are taking the time because now here in the state of Michigan, you have to show that you've applied for jobs. So they're going on, taking up the time of employers scheduling interviews and then not showing up. One business owner told us 75% of the people don't show up for the interview. They just want to say that, hey, they applied for a job. And so in doing that, we've created another crisis. And when it comes to like our infrastructure, are we going to even have the workers to do the work?
Hey, if you're offering a good union job with union wages and benefits, people will show up. I guarantee it. I mean, a lot, you know, so a couple things about all this. Number one, we just saw the jobs numbers from last month's report. There was a massive increase in employment in hospitality, in retail. So the data show that huge numbers of people are going back to work. There's really, I hear this too, Ronnie, believe me, from business owners all the time.
You probably hear it a lot more than we do.
But the data just don't. What the studies and the data show is a couple of things. Number one, that the extra money for unemployment and the checks to people are what saved untold number of businesses. It kept money in the economy. It put money in people's pockets, and they spent it. And so it, you know, it kept businesses alive. And it also, the data also show that that people are not, this idea that people are lazy or gaming the system or don't want to work, there just really aren't data to support that. People are going back to work, and it's interesting if people actually believe in markets. You know, do people really believe in capitalism, in Econ 101, in supply and demand? Wages have been so low for so long. Workers may just be demanding a little more. And isn't that what capitalism is actually supposed to be? I mean, in other words, we haven't even, in the House, we passed the Raise the Wage Act to gradually increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2025. But that hasn't gone into effect. The Senate hasn't done anything. But I think workers are partly just saying, pay me what I'm worth. And so that's just like a back and forth that's how the economy is sort of supposed to work. So people are going back to work in huge numbers. And I mean, let me just put it this way. Joe Biden, first 5 months of a presidency, added 3 million net jobs to the economy. No president has ever done that.
Well, we won't get into this, but we're coming out of a pandemic. Come on. People were not working at crazy numbers because we were in the middle of a pandemic.
Absolutely.
So come on, let's not be fair. Let's be fair here. Other people didn't have the same situation. But if I can ask you too, because one of the situations, I didn't even realize this until recently. We were talking with the spokesperson for the Michigan Department of Corrections yesterday, and we're talking about the stimulus checks that are going to the prisoners. And these stimulus checks were designed to help the American people get on their feet, right? Pay their mortgage, pay their car payments, put food on the table. Well, if all of that is already taken care of for the prisoners behind bars, why are we getting that money, especially for people who are maybe on, death row or not here in Michigan, but life sentences that aren't going to be getting out? Why are they getting that money when there are people on the outside who haven't received any of that money?
Oops, I'm not sure what you mean about the last part about people on the outside not getting any money because you mean because they're too wealthy or something?
No,
I'm not sure what you mean.
And some people qualify and some people don't. But we have prisoners, and this was brought up that.
So you mean prisoners otherwise qualify?
Yes, they're qualifying. Because, and I know there was an issue with IRS saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't give them this money because it's not going to help the economy. It's not helping keep them in their homes. It's not helping them, make a car payment because all of that is taken care of. They have health care behind bars. And the spokesperson was saying.
Do you think some prisoners are parents?
Well, sure they are. And I would think some of them are also going to be able to get some of the child tax care money, but not all of them. And so if that's the case, why not have it directly go to those on the outside that are taking care of those kids?
Right. Well, the latest I checked, if you're a parent and you have a kid on the outside, if you have a bank account, you can use the money for your kid, whether you're in prison or not. But this is a teensy part of the money. It's not something, to be honest with you, that I considered. We certainly didn't have a debate and affirmatively decide, let's give this money to people in prison. It just, if it's an impact, right, of something we did, it's, we could take a look at it and see whether, I guess you're proposing that prisoners ought to affirmatively be excluded from getting any of this money. And that, maybe you're right, but it would be something I'd have to look at and study, because it's not like Congress said, let's give money to people incarcerated. It's just not something that came up. And so it's certainly worth looking at.
Yeah, and that was exactly what the spokesperson said. And by the way, this has happened under Republicans and Democrats, so it's not pointing the finger at anyone. I think people just didn't think about it. And the concern, too, is now you have additional money that's floating around within the prisons that, could help lead to a surge of violence. They can buy, illegal cell phones and drugs and things of that nature to try to get into the prisons. So if it becomes a bigger issue, is that something that could be considered by some of our elected leaders?
But it's I'm just thinking about this philosophically, right? And more broadly. So your position would be that all prisoners should be destitute because this isn't the source. prisoners go to prison. They have money. Who knows how much money they have in a bank account? Why would this little bit of money all of a sudden be the source of drugs and guns? I mean, if they already have a bank account, this isn't going to them as cash in a prison. That's not how it works, right? It's going, if they get it, it's going to some bank account. Well, prisoners already can have bank accounts, right? So should we try to take away all the money from someone when they go to prison so that they can't act? I mean, this is something like I never thought about before, but it doesn't seem like this is the main part of the overall question, right? I mean,
you're right, though. It was something I hadn't thought of either until we had the conversation. And because by them having more access to money, then it gives them, there's an underground economy within our prisons. And so the concern with some of the prison officials is that this is allowing some of our prisoners to be able to buy or give money to people on the outside to be able to get drugs, to try to bring them into the prisons, or to get some illegal contraband. It's giving them additional resources and finances to be able to do so. So just something to put on your radar. We don't have to debate it here. It was an interesting question. And, you know, as the prison spokesperson said, this is an issue with the elected leaders. It's not anything that they had any control over.
Yeah. Anyway, it's an interesting question. I'd have to learn all about like what access prisoners have to money, that their own money, and how they would get it, you know, use it for those purposes. As I said, prisoners they wouldn't have any more access to this money than they have to any other money they have, right? So they already have potentially bank accounts or anything, you know, they have access to their own money. This money doesn't magically go to them in the prison more than any other money they have access to. So we should look at it. So that's what you said, and I think you're right.
So with that, Congressman, I apologize. I didn't mean to put you on the spot at all. This is, one of those things. It's Republican, Democrat. It's not a political party thing, because we always enjoy speaking with you here on the show. And so if I can ask you anything else you want people to know before we let you go. There are so many things that you're always juggling, though.
Well, we're working on a lot of things. I would just say that we... I reintroduced my deferred removal for Iraqi nationals, including Minorities Act, with my Republican colleague John Molinar from Midland. And this is an issue I've been working on since I came to Congress, because I represent more Iraqi-born people than any other member of the House in of the most of all 435 districts. And a lot of them, of course, in my district are Chaldeans, and I'm so proud, that that's the case. But there are also Sunni and Shia and other Iraqis. But there was this whole effort during the Trump administration to sort of mass deport people, Iraqis who'd ever done anything wrong, and it was ripping up families, people who had been here for decades. And it was, and one of my constituents ended up dying after they were sent back to Iraq because they were diabetic and they had all kinds of problems. And it was so sad. So we've reintroduced this, and we're, I'm hoping that we can work with the Biden administration to go back to the way all Democratic and Republican administrations dealt with it before, which was, if they came across an individual who was really, a serious problem and needed to be deported, they did that, but that they weren't trying to find, any Iraqi-born person and deport them. And so I think we're making progress with the administration, and we're reintroducing our bill, which would just try to give Iraqi nationals their day in immigration court before, sort of the most American thing, right? Treat each person as an individual, give them their day in court. And so that's, we're working on that, and I'm very hopeful about that. But I just, I'm very excited about this moment. I think that, the legislature finally appropriated the money for our schools that we sent to the state, and that's really terrific. And a lot of other funds will be coming, like to parents through the child tax credit. And we just have to keep going to try to help America develop out of this very difficult time we've been in. And it's so great to be out and about and be with people again. And but at the same time, I'm very worried about the Delta variant. And I just want to tell everybody who's watching or listening that any death now from COVID is a preventable death, 100% preventable death. Please, if you haven't gotten vaccinated, get vaccinated, get your kids vaccinated. I just want to save lives and help make sure we can keep our economy open. And we've got a lot of areas in our state, Ronnie, that still a lot of people aren't vaccinated. And so I just want to go talk to your doctor, talk to your faith leader, talk to your mom. We love you all. We want you all to be healthy. So please, these vaccines are incredible the way they work. And everybody go get vaccinated so we can all stay safe.
So Congressman, one last question for you here on the Megacast before we say goodbye. What do you think is going to be the silver lining for you and your constituents coming out of the pandemic? Anything good?
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that we both learned a lot of ways to do business and do community work that we'll keep some of the good stuff from it, some of the technology, some of the efficiency. And at the same time, wow, how much were we reminded what a social creature human beings are and how much we need each other. We need to look each other in the eye, hear each other breathing, hug each other, shake hands. So I think we really need to learn from this how important public health is as well. I don't know about you, Ronnie or Tyler. We realize in my household, not only did no one get the flu, none of us even got a cough or a cold over the whole 15 months because we were masking and social distancing. And okay, that doesn't mean I want to mask and social distance forever, but it was a powerful lesson, right? That we can have a lot of power over our own health. And I think we're all going to take that, out with us into the future. And I encourage everybody to take good care of yourselves and, respect public health measures. I hope when all the politicization of this recedes into the past, that we will be ready for a next pandemic or, because it'll come, and we'll know we have to have the PPE in advance. We'll be, racing from the beginning with the science to develop whatever vaccines or medicines we need. And I think there's a huge silver lining, Ronnie, in how let's make things in America again, right? Let's make everything we need for our security here again. I mean, that's great for jobs, for patriotism, and for us to just flat out be ready. So I think there are a lot of silver linings here, even as much tragedy as there has been in losing well over 600,000 of our fellow Americans to this horrible virus.
Well, let's hope we only have one pandemic per lifetime, so we don't see the next one, right?
I hope so. But I don't know if you're hesitant to talk about global warming, but that global warming actually, it will contribute to a greater likelihood of zoonotic diseases, arising and spreading. And so we have to take the science really seriously and be ready.
Well, Congressman, we always appreciate your time. A great ringtone, by the way.
That's my wife's ringtone.
Wow.
Well, we hope you get electricity back soon.
Thanks. She's probably called me to say, I'm coming to your office because I can't do anything at the house.
Right, exactly. You look for those neighbors with that light on. You're like, oh, by the way, can I stop over for lunch today? We so appreciate your time as always.
All right, take care.
Thank you again, Representative Andy Levin, with us here on the Megacast for Michigan's 9th District. We'll take a quick break here. Our apologies to our next guest for running a little bit late, but when we come back, we'll be talking about STEM without boundaries. That's next here on the Megacast.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Sophia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These flowers represent my love. Stitches and threads join us together. Stitches and threads join us together. Wherever you see a flower, wherever you see a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you. Know that my love is with you.
Story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org. At discovertheforest.org.
Thank you for being with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios with Mr. Tyler Keefe. When you're watching the Megacast, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You'll find us at Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T. Listen to us on the radio. If you're out driving around or maybe you don't have electricity in your house, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff, but you can also catch us on Facebook as we are live streaming today's edition. And our apologies to our next guest for running a little bit late, but sometimes when we get to our elected leaders, we have so many questions for them because we only get them every so often. And so much is going on in the country. We didn't even get to so many things that we wanted to ask the congressman about. But we're excited to bring in our next guest because we are going to be talking about engineering and computer science. With us now, let's bring in, okay, Monsi, you're by yourself. No, Monsi, okay, I'll say your names. Wave. That way we know who's who, okay? Monsi Nima, she is the founder and CEO for STEM Without Boundaries. And then also with us is going to be Arian, and also Farheen. Farheen, you're by yourself, right?
Yes.
I love the curtains behind you.
Thank you. I'm actually at a hotel right now because my power is out. So it's like the lobby curtains, yeah.
Oh my gosh, bless your heart. Do the other two of you, do you guys have electricity right now?
Yeah, we do.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Hey, Monsi, why don't we start with you because you're the founder and CEO. Tell us about STEM Without Boundaries.
Yeah, of course. So STEM Without Boundaries is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's dedicated towards improving STEM accessibility through STEM nights for youth across the country. And the main way we do this is by hosting STEM nights. So a STEM night is a place for, younger students who are in elementary age students, like from kindergarten through 6th grade, to come and learn about all these different careers in STEM and explore different, fields by meeting role models in the industry and getting to see all the opportunities that are there for them.
And so with that, you're with the Arian, and how did you get involved? What do you want to see happen with this program?
Yeah, so STEM Without Boundaries, I got involved with it around over a year ago. And since then, we've grown a lot, and there's so many different changes that we've brought on, so many new initiatives that we've taken on. And we really see ourselves as an organization that can continuously make an impact in smaller local communities to increase accessibility to STEM.
So you guys are really smart, aren't you? Yeah, they are. Hey, Farheen, I know that you're still in high school.
Yes, I am.
And what's this like for you to still be in high school, but to be such a part of a cool group?
So it's just so cool because I've been here for more than a year now. I originally started off as just like a media director and then executive director of media, and now I'm the chief digital officer, and it's just so amazing to, like, at all of our meetings we get to meet so many like other students who are still in high school who are all trying to increase STEM accessibility, and it really is awesome, like, making friends, because like I have so many friends here at SWB who are from so many different places who I would have never gotten the opportunity to meet. Like, some of them live in England, like I know somebody lives in Bangladesh. I have a lot of friends like from Wisconsin and California, and I'm just in Michigan, so.
Just in Michigan. But can I ask you too, as someone who's still in high school, how do you think these connections are going to help develop you and your career goals later in life?
So I have always been interested in STEM, so this has definitely given me the opportunity to, like, experiment more with like what I'm interested in, make sure that this is something that I would like to do as a career, and it has opened me to a lot of other opportunities. All the other people at STEM Without Boundaries, we all usually work at different organizations too, so I've had the chance to like hear about other organizations from them, and obviously from takeovers that STEM Without Boundaries does.
Monzi, if I can throw the questions back to you for just a minute. I know that you're going to be going to the University of Michigan in the fall. How do you think finding, being a co-founder of this organization and the founder of this organization is going to help you in your studies?
Yeah, of course. Go Blue. I'm wearing my Michigan shirt right now.
Go Blue. Tyler went to MSU.
I've been attacked.
Yeah, that's a great question. So definitely my experience with STEM Without Boundaries, I feel like it's really helped me to find my community and my group of people. And everyone's so like welcoming, and it's just such a great environment to be a part of. And I think that it's definitely going to help me in the future. Just because it's taught me so much about time management. It's taught me about how to kind of find my voice and be confident in myself, and really not, I think there's like this stereotype when it comes to STEM about like who can, be a part of STEM and who can't. And I think that just being a part of STEM Without Boundaries has taught me that we, strive to break the stereotypes, and we strive to kind of move past the conventions that society places and show, everyone that they can truly be a part of this space.
And with that, Aryan, how do you hope to attract people into STEM with this group?
Yeah, so as we kind of mentioned before, these STEM nights are kind of a huge catalyst to people being attracted to STEM. We're all about exposing people to different parts of STEM, whether it be technology, engineering, mathematics, whatever interests them, and kind of emphasizing ways that they can apply STEM, not only at school, but outside of that school environment, and kind of fuel their passion to learn more about STEM. So it's really all about that interaction with professionals, science experiments, anything that we can provide to them to fuel their passion.
And with that too, what do you guys do on these STEM nights?
Yeah, so at the STEM nights, we invite universities as well as other local organizations to bring almost like booths to local elementary schools during the STEM night. So students can walk around, take a look at different science experiments, learn different concepts, and it's really, it really builds a community within the elementary school, or a community within the city itself of people who are really passionate. So as I said, it's a really hands-on experience. And that's kind of how we like to bring STEM to younger kids.
And with that, so what's it like though when you see a kid's eyes light up? Either one of you.
Okay, yeah, of course. So when I hosted my very first STEM night back in 2019, before COVID, it was just such a magical experience to see, like, Novi Meadows is where the STEM night was held, and there were like more than 700 people in the gym, and there were like 20 different organizations, and it was exactly like a STEM carnival. It was just beautiful to get to see, you know, all these kids just getting to try different things and just getting to see all the different representation there. From all different kinds of like careers, people that were there, just to show, you know, these younger students that STEM is something that you can truly be a part of, because I feel like for so many, you know, younger students, you can't really think you can do something unless you like see another person, or like you don't know that opportunities lie until you get to experience them. So it was just beautiful to like get to see, you know, all these students just trying all these different things. Like there was like slime, lemon volcanoes, and it was just such a magical event. There was like music, there was a DJ, and we even had food. There was like pizza and cookies, and it was literally like a STEM carnival.
Yeah,
it was so much fun.
I totally agree with everything Monty said. I had the pleasure of attending that STEM night, and I actually have a little brother who's really interested in STEM. So it was great, like, to take him around to all the booths and to see him play, like, with the remote control cars and build his volcano. And he's definitely really interested in this. So it's just great to see that we can bring this into all the students' lives.
And also, I like how you guys are connecting it to trying to show them how they can use it in their day-to-day lives, because we've all had to take, like, stats or some crazy class in college or high school that we're like, we're never going to use this again. So you guys are trying to apply it to life to continue that interest.
Yeah, the whole goal of like these STEM nights is to really bring STEM in a very enthusiastic, friendly, and fun environment, which is why we do a lot of hands-on activities, and we really try to engage the students and do a lot of fun things that they also really love to do. And actually, because of the pandemic, ever since like the pandemic happened, we've had to restructure our curriculum, and this year we brought virtual STEM nights to our, we have over 15 chapters across the country, and so each of them held their very own virtual STEM night for the first time because of the pandemic. And it was just really awesome, because we were a little bit worried that, you know, we wouldn't be able to have like the in-person experience where kids get to do hands-on activities, but surprisingly, we were able to reach more people virtually, and we were able to engage the students in just the same way.
But I'm wondering, if the kids tried to build their own volcanoes at home, how many parents were upset because of the mess?
Yeah, so we actually brought in a lot more guest speakers. We did like hands-on activities where they could, you know, use things around their house, like, you know, buttons, or like if they're making like paper airplanes, that kind of stuff. We did Jeopardy with them, and they were a little bit like, they were like 2 hours long, so kids got to, you know, go to different organizations' Zoom links, and they got to experience like different, you know, careers in STEM.
So Aryan, if I can ask you as the COO, where do you hope this program goes in 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So STEM Without Boundaries, already since the founding of the organization, has grown so much through, as Monty said, having over 15 chapters. And we really hope to just hit every community possible, not only in the United States, but expanding beyond. We currently also have a chapter in Canada. We've reached 11 states currently through our chapters. So we really focus on just impacting as many students as possible, and kind of expanding our program from not only STEM nights, but also resources that they can interact with outside of STEM nights. Like we currently have STEM handouts that are available for free on our website that students can take. They can print them out, they can grab their materials, they can do science experiments. So 5 years from now, we really hope to just hit more diverse communities, hit communities that maybe don't have those same resources that maybe some more privileged communities do. And yeah, as I said, just hit as many communities as possible.
Where do you get your funding from?
Yeah, so we have some amazing sponsors that, you know, local businesses in our communities in not only southeastern Michigan, but beyond that as well. So we always look to local businesses who are really fueled by our mission as well, and through that, we hope to fund all of our programs.
So with that, Farheen, if I can ask you, because as someone who's kind of, in charge of the media portion, we are kind of coming out of we hope we're coming out of a pandemic, but what a challenging year in trying to reach people. How important has the media aspect been for the organization?
Yeah, it has been so extremely important because we work to create and edit informational videos about STEM and upload them to our YouTube channel. So even when students who can't attend these STEM nights, they can still go to our YouTube channel and find videos. They can find STEM nights. We worked on videos like STEM night recaps, Coding 101, like famous STEM professionals. And we also worked on a tech series last year, which was created to offer advice to students during the pandemic about topics ranging from career exploration to college admissions. And we had interviews with inspiring panelists from top-tier colleges, NASA, Microsoft, and Google, and they can all be found on our YouTube channel.
I can't believe I'm talking to high school kids and incoming freshmen, college freshmen. You three are amazing. And the fact that you've been able to do this and grow it so much and in the middle of the pandemic, you must be so proud. Hopefully you're very proud of your accomplishments.
You guys are so sweet.
So with that, where do you hope this goes in 5-10 years?
Me or Mansi?
Mansi, because you're the founder, right, Mansi?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I actually, by the way, I think all the credit truly goes to our wonderful STEM Without Boundaries team. It's not just the three of us that are like running the organization. We have such amazing, executive directors and leaders, all of our directors as well, who are a part of STEM Without Boundaries, are the reason why that we've been able to grow so much. It's so inspiring to see like all the hard work that each and every person on our team puts in, especially with the pandemic. It's been such a challenge with like the virtual school year, but everyone's put in like so much time and energy into like different initiatives and just working with each other to find new ideas and work around, the pandemic and still bring STEM education in an engaging way. So I think like that's a huge part of why we've been able to grow a lot, is because of our wonderful team. And we hope, just like how Aryan was saying, our goal is to have, STEM nights all across the country in every community. And another one of our big goals is through our diversity, equity, and inclusion team. We really want to bring communities where people feel comfortable being their authentic selves and really making sure that everyone's voice is being able to heard, and that everyone feels like they have, equal representation and can be a part of this wonderful STEM space.
Just so you know, too, I think you need a STEM night for adults. Let us understand what you guys are doing and talking about. But I never got to build a volcano when I was in elementary, junior high, whatever. Hey, where can people find out more information and watch some of your videos?
They can get involved by staying updated on our website, our social media, and our YouTube channel, which is just STEM Without Boundaries. And if you would like to be on our leadership team, once applications reopen, definitely stay updated and look for the application.
Are you guys on TikTok too?
Yes,
we are.
We started it.
So you guys, you have. What's the TikTok? Do you guys do little videos?
Yeah, our TikTok handle is at STEM Without Boundaries. We actually just launched it a couple days ago. But from there, we hope to kind of just make, short informational videos for, everybody to access.
See, that's awesome. The three of you are going to do great things in the world. So we wish you the best of luck and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And Farheen, I hope you guys get power back soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. We know it's never easy living without electricity, but we hope that you had no damage in your house and it's just the power is out. So thank you to the three. Again, STEM Without Boundaries. What a cool program.
Yeah, a really interesting thing that they're doing, and including people all around the U.S. and in this effort to spread STEM to various communities and a lot of different people as well, because we do see in a lot of these STEM STEM fields that it does tend to be a lot of people from similar demographics, and it's been changing over recent years, but there's still a long way to go, and inspiring the next generation to take some charge in doing that, and then them taking the charge themselves to inspire their peers is fantastic, and it's something that's so necessary.
Their parents have to be so proud. Amazing kids.
Yes.
But I do think, just like you, Tyler, I think it means so much more when it comes from your peers than from adults. So it's great to see that they're doing this. Thank you again for your time, and to all of our guests as well. Hope everyone out there stays safe, because more storms are expected this afternoon. With that, we'll be back, hopefully, fingers crossed, tomorrow.
Yes.
10 a.m. This has been the Megacast.